Welcome! We've been having some technical issues trying to get the live stream going through the YouTube announced one. We started off, I noticed it wasn't showing up, so I had to go to straight up, we're shooting it out right now kind of thing. So for those of you joining us, we're here with David Warden of News Now Houston, who has been helping the Potosi out down there around Houston, Texas, with doing some accountability stuff. And the reason why I'm interviewing him today is because of a major news incident that happened this week involving an arrest of the Potosi back in, what was it, November?
Yes.
Yeah, back in November, where an officer arrested Philip Turner of the Potosi, and then went and found his car and dug his wallet out of the car, and then went back to continue to process him and all that stuff. And so I got here, David. Can you give me give me and everyone a quick rundown of what happened that night?
Okay. We turned up at the police station at 5 p.m. and we were there to film the Fallen Officers Memorial. Philip was going to do a story about a detective that was murdered, a black detective that was murdered. And I believe it was in the early 20s, if I'm not mistaken. And his name doesn't appear on that monument. He's the only black officer killed in the history of Galveston PD. And, he belongs on that memorial with the rest of his officers. And so we started filming before we got to the memorial. Philip always turns his camera on as soon as he gets out of the truck and doesn't turn it off until he gets back in. He runs constantly. I, on the other hand, I just run in 15, 20 seconds and stop and then start over again. That's for editing purposes. But we got around by the Fallen Officers Memorial. We're 50, 60 feet apart, and Sergeant Chapman pulls up in a patrol vehicle, and literally within just a couple of minutes, Philip's in handcuffs, and they're putting him in a patrol car. Now, we're, like I said, 50, 60 feet apart, and they don't pay me any attention at all. The only difference between us is that I'm old and white, he's young and black. And so they carted him off to jail, which really pissed me off. So I stayed on and was very provocative in my filming. I actually went on their property and filmed policemen sitting in their patrol cars and filmed their personal vehicles and filmed in areas where they should have bothered me and didn't. Short time later, after a couple of hours, I realized they weren't going to kick Philip loose and that I had the only video of his arrest. Unfortunately, some departments are bad about seizing your video or erasing it, and so I wanted to make sure that that video stayed secured. So I departed the area, went back to the car, and was just basically hiding around the car. Short time later, I noticed they set up a perimeter, and I assumed they were looking for me, and as it turns out, they were. But I was hidden pretty good. So not long after that, I noticed a white, unmarked police car riding through. With the guy had his hand hanging out the window up in the air. And I wasn't sure what he was doing, so I just kind of kept watching him. And then as they passed Philip's car, the lights flashed on his car. Now, we were parked about a mile and a quarter away from the police station. And what they did was they removed his car keys from his personal property when they had checked him into the jail, and they drove around that perimeter, pushing the alarm button on his key fob until the lights flashed on his car, and that told them what car it was. They then proceeded to search the vehicle, and I filmed them while they were doing that, and they also turned up on Philip's dash cam setup as well. And then after that, they returned back to the police station and gave Philip a rash of crap, and I just stayed on there and called Carlos Miller at Photography is Not a Crime and let him know what was going on, and then I called a friend to come and pick me up.
Yeah, and the interesting part is they turned off the dash cams, which, do you think that inadvertently actually preserved the evidence of them standing around the car that Philip later released?
I actually had video of them doing that. So we had video in either case. But the fact that they turned off the dash cam really just kind of speaks to the fact that they knew they were doing wrong.
Yeah, I agree with that part. And the only reason why I mention that is because I got a dash cam, but it only holds footage. Well, it can only record for so long, kind of thing. And roughly, I think it's about 8 hours I got it set to, where it before it cycles back through the footage. And I was I can't remember exactly. How long was Philip in jail for?
He was in jail for I don't know. Let's see. They arrested him about 5:30. He got out the next day about 11 in the morning. But his dash cam doesn't record all the time. It has a motion sensor and a power sensor. So if you walk in front of the car, the dash cam starts recording. And if you hit the alarm button where the lights flash or open a door, the dash cam starts recording.
Oh, okay. That's a cool feature kind of thing, and I'm gonna have to look into something like that in the future. Mine's just a cheapy one I got for free on a contest. So thank you, Know Your Rights.
Yeah, mine. I've got one too, and I wish it was more like Phillips. Phillips is badass.
Yeah, but I find it quite interesting the fact that I just on the luck part while you're waiting to get out of there, you saw him show up and get into the car and get that. I mean, a portion of that on film for your cameras was quite amazing. And it's quite ballsy also for the officers to literally go and do that, dig into a person's car without a warrant or anything like that, when they should have known better if the guy's got a camera.
Well, Phillips' camera, they were going through his camera as well. The issue is this with when it comes to Galveston, not just Galveston City Police, the Galveston County Sheriff's Department. They do what they want, and nobody holds them accountable. It's known here in this area just how bad they are. And the thing is, nobody's ever got them on camera, and nobody's ever been able to post on social media to bring the kind of attention to them that this did. They literally had no idea how to handle this when the phone calls started coming. They were just, when you would call and mention Philip's name, they would just hang up.
Sorry, yeah. And I heard about that, and I also seen a little bit of their blatant censoring and deleting or hiding of posts that people made on their Facebook page. Are they still doing that currently? Has there been anything about public records with that?
No, nobody thought to follow up on that. At some point, they're not the only department around here that does that. That's a very common thing. Nobody's dragged them into court yet on it, and that's what it's going to take to force. They don't change on their own around here. You have to drag them into court and force them. That's just how this area is. They until it costs them money, they don't care.
Yeah, and I can sort of attest to that kind of issue in a way. It literally takes having the resources to take them to court in many cases, because, I mean, you can file a complaint, but in most cases, those complaints go nowhere.
Right. Well, they're investigating themselves, and it's basically the old, we investigated ourselves and found we did no wrong kind of thing. You know, one of the things about the accountability movement is that we're not asking for change with these people. We've been asking for change for years. Now we're making them change by going to social media and bringing attention to them. And the one thing that criminals hate the most is when you shine a light on them. And when you do that, they don't have a choice.
Yeah, and the thing is that's quite the interesting aspect. And so, I mean, how did you feel when the news came out that a grand jury, set up the indictment for the trespass charge with the one officer that got in the car?
Honestly, I'm underwhelmed. I'm happy that there is a charge, but you know what they're addressing is a very minor charge. Okay, there should have been an official oppression or false arrest charge to go along with that. And I really think that there should have been more action taken against the officer because his actions were blatant. And they're blatant about what they do because they've never been held accountable before. This particular officer, Officer Chapman, has an extensive history of complaints, and nothing's ever been done.
Yeah, and that's quite the interesting part. I know a judge hasn't signed off on the charges yet, which is the next step. Do you think it might get held up there, or do you think the prosecutor may try to drop it or pull any kinds of stunts like we've seen with maybe the Ferguson case with the one guy that was shot, or with the more famous one, the Tamir Rice case over in Cleveland, Ohio?
I'm not sure how that's going to play out down there. Galveston has traditionally been a very democratic area. And if you could get somebody into court, when it comes to public officials, if you could get them there, typically, it would all proceed forward. But in the last election, it flipped and they got a lot of Republicans in place. And Republicans around here don't like to prosecute public officials. They don't like to do the laundry out in the open like that. So I'm honestly not sure at this point. I believe that the district attorney is acting in good faith. Whether a judge will follow through, I can't say.
Yeah, and I have to say that's quite the interesting dynamic kind of thing, and it's hard to say how this is all going to play out. Each area has their own unique characters and all that stuff that are in control of certain aspects of the legal system. And now I sort of want to move into the next part, the Shell refinery incident, which got you a lot of attention, also because you were arrested before the Potosi, Philip Turner there, and as Philip was coming to help you out, he went over and filmed and got arrested himself. And I was wondering if you can give everybody a quick rundown with that one, who may not be familiar with that entire case.
Sure. I had actually been out there the day before and filmed along the roadway and was contacted by the Deer Park Police Department. It was a very cordial, friendly contact. The sergeant that responded to that particular call was one that I had dealt with before. I film at traffic accidents. I film a lot of other things. And this particular day, I had a news outfit out of the East that had contracted me to go out there and get some pictures of the Shell facility because Shell was doing a bunch of layoffs. And so it really wasn't an audit that I was out there for. And but the police came along, and I it becomes an audit at that point, and I just played through it, and it was fine. So I had been over about a mile away from Shell the next day, which was a Monday, filming near the refineries, and the Harris County deputy that's the liaison for Homeland Security came and stopped and talked to me, told me I was fine, there was no issue with what I was doing, I was on the public right-of-way, yada, yada, yada. So I go a mile down the road to Shell, and a Harris County deputy pops up and just basically goes nuts. I mean, he grabbed my camera, threw it in the mud, and when he did that, I was already handcuffed, but I called him a tyrant and a few other names, and he charged me with interfering with a public servant. He says that I refused to be patted down. Now, there was video. I had my body camera running, and they seized that and have, to date, we've not been able to get access to it, and we even have a judge-signed court order giving us access to that right now, and we've still not been able to get access to it. About 3 weeks.
You know what? I keep
Well,
forgetting I got a mute thing here on the mic, so I don't accidentally make too much noise with keyboard typing and all that stuff. So,
okay,
but I have a question for you on that part. Um,
okay.
sorry, with that, people probably didn't hear my question. Is that do you know of anybody that else that has had an issue with getting stuff back or taking a long time getting stuff back from uh, the police in that area?
Sure. They, in this particular instance, the video from my body camera shows that I'm innocent of the charge that I was accused of. Basically, he says I refused to be patted down, which isn't true. So once we have the video and show it to the prosecutor, they have no choice but to drop the charges. The sheriff's department doesn't want that video published. So initially, they couldn't account for my cameras. They weren't in the evidence room. They weren't in the property room. They just vanished. And it wasn't until I turned up, the sheriff did a town hall meeting, and I sent them a message on Facebook and told them I was coming there and that I was going to get some accountability. And when I got there, the PIO cornered me before I got the sheriff and said, "We've got it. I've seen pictures of it, blah, blah, blah." But as far as getting your property back after something like this, yes, it takes forever. They're in no hurry to give you anything back. They had no reason to seize my cameras. All they needed was the SD card out of my camera. They take that stuff to shut you up. And that worked for a minute, and then my subscribers stepped in and funded me to buy a new camera, and the sheriff's department has been miserable ever since.
Oh, I bet. So, I can't really expect you to answer too many questions about the case because you are sort of on the legal defensive right now. So I'm not going to try to push too much the issue on that part. Also, for those who are tuning in, if you have a question you want to ask News Now Houston, go ahead and post that in the chat there, and I'll try to make sure to ask him those questions. I got a window tuned in, so I can keep an eye on that. But the next part is how are things with Philip? Did his arrest charges get turned over, or what's the deal for him?
We we're both out on bond, of course. They arrested him and charged him with criminal trespass on a public sidewalk, which is basically what they did was the deputy grabbed him and pulled him onto Shell property, and you can clearly see that in the video. And then he called the district attorney and told the district attorney that Philip was 3 feet onto Shell property. And so the district attorney approved charges for criminal trespass. I've been back there. I have filmed the location where he was arrested. That's all been provided to the attorney, and the attorney has scheduled a meeting next week with the district attorney to show them that video, and that should resolve his case. He should have the charges dropped at that point. In the meantime, we recently figured out that the deputy that arrested him was at my arrest as well, and so he knew who Philip was.
That's actually quite interesting on that part. So I know some people, I've talked with a few people on Reddit and stuff like that, and they said, "Oh, well, the property goes past that little sidewalk part." Do you have a sort of a comment on that part issue right there?
Well, the property line goes all the way to the street, okay, but there's what's called a public easement in place. If you look at where Philip was standing, he is on a wheelchair access point. The county mows the grass in front of Shell. All right. The street that's there actually goes down before it connects to their road about 25 feet. There's public utilities there, light poles, sensors in the ground for the control lights, the red lights, all of that. He was clearly on public property.
Yeah, and I've sort of had those debates with a few people too, and all that part. And I wanted to at least get someone who knew more about it to actually be able to state the facts and all that stuff, which is the important thing for his case at least. And I'm pretty sure will be an important fixation for your case. On top of that, do you think the live streaming really helped out with his entire case with that incident?
Yes, absolutely. Because in my case, when the sheriff arrested me, there was no live stream. They took the video. That meant they controlled the narrative. They came out and said all this stuff that was untrue, and we turned some of that around already and shown that it's lies. But in Philip's case, they thought they had the video. They didn't realize he was live streaming. So they initially came out with one story, and then 2 hours into it, the next morning, about 8 a.m., they released a statement, and then 2 hours later, they took that statement back and changed it because they realized that the video was out there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they realized the mistake for sure on that one. I do remember some of the news articles about that, how it was sort of like the original police beat kind of thing. It's like, oh, they got someone sort of semi YouTube famous there arrested, and then all of a sudden it turns out that, oh, there is video footage of what happened that's contradicting the police statements.
Correct.
Um,
And they don't, they, again, like Galveston, they have never been caught red-handed like this. Everybody here in the area knows Harris County sheriff's deputies are, if you make them mad or if you oppose them, they'll file criminal charges on you. They just create criminal charges out of thin air. And that's what happened to me, and that's what happened to Philip. But they had never been caught like we caught them. And they didn't know how to react to that. They went into immediate damage control mode.
Yeah, and sort of, I'm not sure how familiar with a more recent case. Well, I mean, not a more well-known, another case that the Philip had, where one of the police departments said he came in wearing like a large overcoat that and possibly hiding a
Princeton.
shotgun.
Yeah, it's Princeton. They released a statement saying that, okay, now keep in mind, it was like July. They say he's wearing like this long, heavy overcoat with a hood, and he's got something hidden under his jacket. And, you know, it was all lies. Philip created a video and showed pictures of himself, you know, standing in front of the police station. You can see his reflection in the window. He's wearing gym shorts and a T-shirt.
Yeah, and I've lived in Texas for a couple of years there when I was in the military, and I can say you don't wear that. I mean, overly large stuff that can hold in the heat. And how hot? I mean, what's the usual temperature in July of Texas?
Oh, we're in the triple digits.
Yeah, you would be sweating. You'd be pouring out sweat and literally be a walking fire hydrant pretty much at that point.
I don't think that you could stay conscious long enough to go 15 feet. I mean, you would just overheat yourself and pass out.
Yeah. It just stuns me about how bold that statement is. And also they have, if I remember correctly, people have been pointing out that there was a security camera. So I think there's been some public records requests for that.
There was not only a security camera, but the detective brought out a body camera and turned on the film.
Oh.
And at this point, they're not releasing the video from either of them at this point.
Oh, okay. That's interesting because that would prove pretty well if they were putting out slander, which is a very big civil offense, too, if I understand correctly.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to some of your more recent work. You got your camera back. You got another camera going. You've been punching out videos as of late, and I mean, you got some pretty good ones going on. Especially more recently in the past day or so, where you went and filmed toll booths. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
Well, I have a lot of subscribers that are local, and one thing that I didn't mention to you was after my arrest with the sheriff's department, a bunch of the sheriff's deputies got together, and they know that their deputy screwed up, and they know I'm going to expose them. So they started picking on me. They started commenting on my social media, making threats. Doing all kinds of stuff. They also figured out where I worked at, and started harassing my boss, telling him that he hired a anti-police guy and all this stuff, and until they harassed him to the point that he had to let me go.
Wait, okay. So you've been let go because people have been calling in and harassing your employer over the entire your off work activity.
Correct. Not just people, Harris County deputies.
It's specifically the deputies.
Yes, yes. So, unemployed means I got nothing but time to go and film these deputies, and that's what I've been doing. Well, I get input from people who are local that tell me about things that are going on in different locations, and so I started hearing a lot about the toll police, the constables that patrol the tollway over here, and it seems they like to pull people over and search their vehicles without probable cause and things like that. So I popped up at one of the toll booths and started filming, and took about 7 minutes, and a sergeant come running out of the building, jumps in his patrol vehicle, and he turns out to be a Precinct 8 constable there in Pasadena. And he comes over and jumps out of his car, walks up to me, grabs me, starts patting me down. I asked him if I'm being detained. He says no, and I objected to the pat down. And he keeps patting me down anyway. He just basically was going to do what he wanted to do. And then he wanted identification. Of course, I gave him none. And he realized I was wearing a body camera, and I guess he smelled a rat, so he backed off and he left. Well, he parked down the street and waited for me to go back to my vehicle, and I saw him coming, so I pulled into traffic, and I got about a mile and a quarter head start on him, and he was zigzagging in and out of cars and doing 70 or better mile an hour in a 50 zone to catch up with me to get the license plate off my truck. So
yeah.
I went back to the toll plaza.
If I heard correctly, he also ran a red light too.
To get away from me, he sure did. After I pulled over, was going to get out and have it out with him right there beside the road, and he just went on by me, ran a red light to get away, and then when I got back to toll plaza, he pulled up and wouldn't get out of his vehicle, wouldn't roll down his window, and then just finally he drove off. So I'm preparing a complaint at this point, IED complaint, and I've talked to the Precinct 8 Constable, Phil Sandlin, on the phone about it. Of course, he wouldn't comment a lot. He went into politician mode. But I will say one good thing about this constable. He did something that very, very few police officers, chiefs of police, sheriffs have ever done. He actually talked to me. Usually, once I get one of their guys messing up on video, they run from me. They don't want anything to do with me.
Well, and the thing is what's expected of a leader, especially for police or military or anything like that, is you got to take the flak for your guy screwing up and be able to hopefully do a good PR image and save face kind of thing if possible. And I'm waiting to see what kind of outcome comes from this incident. I followed up with another constable's department at a different location on the tollway. I did that yesterday, and they handled it completely different. They were professional, they were courteous, they were nice, they were everything that a police officer should be when they make contact with a citizen. And I'm not convinced that this is an isolated incident, because I don't believe it is. This guy is a supervisor. This guy's a sergeant. And if he's behaving like this, I promise you the people that are working under him are too. And so they're going to have to make some changes. And I'm going to press them about it. I'm going to stay on them about it. And the first part of that is you have to make a complaint. You have to document it and throw it in their face. Because if you don't, nothing will happen. Yeah, I agree with that part. Do you think it would be better to do a complaint, with the case where, with the Shell arrest or with Phillips thing, do you think filing a police complaint before maybe trying to push for charges or anything like that, or a civil case is a good idea?
Well, first off, always film the police, because they are pathological liars, okay? And not all of them are like that, but you can't tell which one you got. So you always film the police. After that, you always make a written complaint, because even if they don't do anything about it this time, and even if it's a minor complaint, like the guy violated your Fourth Amendment right by patting you down without detaining you, okay, you're establishing a pattern for the next guy and the next guy. So it may not help you, and nothing may come of it right now, but 5 or 6 complaints down the road, it may help somebody else. So you always make a complaint. After that, I mean, as far as criminal charges or anything like that, I mean, whoever knows anymore. It's starting to turn around. I really think that we're seeing the end of the police state. And it's better in some places than others. What I'm seeing on the street now, as opposed to a year ago, is the honest cops are making progress against the bad ones. That is my impression from what I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis. And in dealing with the Harris County Sheriff's Department, there are honest deputies that have been helping me, that have been assisting me, in fighting against the bad guys. Unfortunately, we have a sheriff that is crooked as the day is long, and so it's a difficult process. But this is an election year, and I'm keeping my fingers crossed that we get a new sheriff that'll stand up to the bullies.
Yeah, and I mean that's the biggest issue currently with the I'm noticing from the the police forces, law enforcement forces that are out there, is you do have the occasional you have your good officers, but they can't really do much because you got all these bad officers that could be above them, they could be their partner and all that stuff. And so they're really in a tight spot. I mean, really stuck between a rock and a hard spot on doing something about these bad officers. And you're thinking that this is really starting to have a major impact. I mean, in your area.
I see a difference. I see departments that are turning around. I really do. The good cops are becoming more bold about speaking out and standing up. The night I was arrested, the officer that arrested me is named Ibarra, and the deputy, Ibarra was actually off duty working security for Shell, and so he called an on-duty deputy to come and pick me up and take me to book me. And that deputy and I had a conversation as he was transporting me. He just asked me what had happened, and I told him, and he thought I was kidding. And so he called Ibarra and asked Ibarra, and Ibarra was very bold about telling him. And he told Ibarra, he said, "This is wrong. What you're doing is wrong." And he tried to get Ibarra to drop the charges and just let me go and be done with it. And when Ibarra said no, this young deputy he's only been on the force for about 3 years or 2.5 years, he called the district attorney and told the district attorney what was going on. And the district attorney just said, "Hey, if Ibarra wants to push the charges, I can't stop it." And so they had to go ahead and take me on to jail. But, that was a young deputy that was standing up to a senior deputy. Ibarra is a senior deputy and, trying to do the right thing. So, it's happening. You never saw this 5 years ago. A good deputy or a good police officer standing up to a bad cop, all that's going to do is get you in trouble. But there's more and more of the good officers coming out and standing up to the bad ones. And I really think that we're seeing a change. I think we're seeing the bad ones are starting to either be pushed out, forced into retirement, or at least exposed. And that's a good thing. That's a positive thing.
Yeah. And going back to the live streamer people, hey, if you're watching and you have a question that you might want to ask News Now Houston or David Warden here, go ahead and post it in the chat there, and I'll try to make sure to ask him that question. I want to go back to your thing about with the sheriff's deputies harassing you at work there. When you had work there, and they were just literally calling up your boss. I mean, was it like a daily kind of thing? Were they calling you up or anything like that on top of that? Or were they showing up maybe harassing the people that work there also?
No, they the place I worked is not in Harris County, so they have no jurisdiction. But it's right on the line, and it was a very public job. So what they did was they would call there and say, hey, you got this anti-cop guy working for you, and we're going to tell everybody about it, and nobody's going to do business with you, blah, blah, blah. As far as harassing me beyond that, they were commenting on my social media, things like that. But the threats became so serious that I live on a big sailboat, and I've had to move off of the boat, and I'm staying at an undisclosed location because of concerns about my safety.
Yeah, and actually, from what I understand, your rights on a sailboat, if you're even if you're living on a boat or something like that, are a lot less than if you were to have an apartment or a house. Is that correct?
No, when you're in a marina, you're good. The problem is you're easily gotten to. You're on a boat. It's made out of fiberglass. Somebody pulls up on another boat. Bullets punch holes in it like it's nothing. The location that I'm staying at is very secure. It has a perimeter alarm system, and basically, if anybody walks into the yard, they'll be perforated very quickly before they even know anybody knows they're there. So it's a good location. It's a secure location. But what does that say about Harris County Sheriff's Department that a citizen has to go into hiding for his safety from these people? That's a very bold statement in and of itself.
Yeah, and I mean that really raises an interesting question, because actually there was a very well-known cop blocker. I think it was over in California there that
John Lang.
Yeah, who was recording, who had a huge, extensive security setup and was recording a lot of interesting activity outside his house that was very questionable on what was going on. Even at one point, there was a van that drove up and opened up a door and had a camera on a gimbal setup and was pointing at his house. Yeah. I'm sitting here, I'm like, that's an expensive setup. Why? What's going on here?
Well, and he had Philip A. Hemmings has been to his place. Philip A. works for Photography is Not a Crime. Has been to the house, and there's like a $6,000 video surveillance system. Okay, this guy was killed inside his home. There is no way you can get in that house without being caught on camera, and the police say there is no video.
Really? There's no video of anybody going in and out, and
the police have seized the video, or they say there is no video, that nothing exists.
It makes me. I'm wondering if hopefully, like next of kin might be willing to take that video in, or at least release it publicly for people to do further investigating on.
Well, if you could get the video, the police say it doesn't exist.
The
videos
for that.
The police department is the police. The police department are the ones that he said were going to kill him, and he said that the night before he was killed, and so you can't trust anything that police department says.
Yeah, and I can understand. I mean, with that kind of stuff, why? I mean, some people definitely take their personal safety at risk if something major happens, especially if there's possibly a very corrupt police department or law enforcement department that they're going up against.
Well, I mean, you're dealing with people that can kill you and say they feared for their life, and there's nothing you can do. This deputy that arrested me, there were some hacktivists that provided me information about him. I really don't pay too much attention to the information because it's not really useful to me at this point. But that deputy had agent provocateurs commenting on my YouTube channels, comment sections and stuff, and one of them just asked me, he said, "Can you give me, Deputy Ibarra's email address?" In Texas, okay, I can't give out any information about this guy while there's a criminal charge against me. So I told this guy exactly that. I said, "Look, I can't give you any information about this deputy while there's a criminal case. However, I do know who he is, where he lives, all that stuff. And when this is over with, I'm going to do an expose on that deputy. I said, in the meantime, I'm going to obey the law and not give any information out. That deputy took, they had been trying to get me to say something or do something, and I don't break the law. And so that deputy went and used his connections at the district attorney's office to try and get my bond revoked, saying that he was afraid for his life because I know where he lives. And we went to court on that, and the judge didn't revoke my bond. The district attorney actually backed off on it because I put out a video alerting everybody, and people started calling in. But what they did instead was they gave the deputy a protective order saying that I can't come near him or contact him, which I wasn't doing anyway, or release any information about him. But the purpose of that was to establish, that like I'm harassing him or something, and I'm not. And so now what I am is afraid to go downtown to film sheriff's deputies, because if I bump into him or he sees me down there, he's going to go complain to the judge, and the judge is going to revoke my bond and lock me up. So what they managed to do was silence me. And the district attorney, when we were in court, he told the judge asked him, has he threatened this deputy? And the district attorney said no. He said that all it is he has this information, and we're concerned about what he'll do with it. He might do something. It's pre-restraint, but the judge didn't care. He signed off on the order and granted the order. So at that point, I knew what this guy is doing is he's laying down, the footwork so that if he bumps into me somewhere, he can shoot and kill me, throw a gun down, and it'll look like, well, look at this. I was so bad. I was harassed so bad. I had to get this protective order, and things like that. So there are the causes for my concern. That coupled with the threats that I received from different deputies and stuff, and information. I have some good deputies in the sheriff's department that have donated money to keep me going, and have been feeding me information. And one of the deputies has told me, take those threats seriously. And so that's exactly what I've done.
Well, I'm glad that you do have, law enforcement people that are, seem to be happy for the work that you're doing and exposing the corruption and problem officers within the police department, which brings me joy to my heart on that part, just due to the fact that it's going to help bring about change and all that stuff. For the most part, it looks like you have an instrument. You're sort of being the catalyst for the change going on down in that area. It's sort of people that want it, and you're just being the public eye for it, correct?
Correct. This Sheriff Hickman, if we can get him out of office in this election, there's a new sheriff that's going to be in, the guy that's running, and he has promised to prosecute crooked cops. He has promised to bring the Constitution back to the Harris County Sheriff's Department. And I believe him. So I'm hoping he gets into office, and I've spoken with him, and he will address my complaints and Phillips personally when and if he wins the election.
And I have a question. Have you had any one-on-one talks or discussions with this person that's running for sheriff?
Yes, that's what I'm talking about. His name is Carl Pittman.
Yeah, I just sort of trying to get a little bit more details, kind of thing. If you had that opportunity to get that one-on-one, which is important, maybe hopefully you can maybe get an interview with him. That would be quite interesting. I want to hear more about what he's got to say, because I remember you posted something about him doing a speech or whatever, again, discussion to a group of people there, and I sort of listened in on that, which was quite interesting.
He is an interesting character. Now he has to be careful with me because I am a hot potato. Hickman will grab anything and try and say, well, look at this guy. He's running around with a guy that we had to arrest because he's anti-police, so he's got to have a little bit of balance. And I respect that. I have no issue with that. I'm not asking for any special treatment. I'm just asking them to do the right thing. It's that simple. Follow the law, follow the Constitution. I'm fine with it. And I believe that this new guy will. I really do. I hope he wins, because if he doesn't, then there is an organized criminal element within the sheriff's department, and I do not use that term loosely. It means just what it says: organized crime. And the only way you're ever going to clean up that department is to go in there and start weeding those people out. And you can't do that with the current sheriff, because he's one of them.
Yeah. And going back to the people that are tuning in on this live stream, if you have any questions or comments or something like that, get them posted in the live chat, and I'll make sure to mention them here at the news now. We're closing in on about an hour here. Been doing this interview, and I was hoping maybe some people would have some questions, but it looks like none are. So maybe I'm doing a really good job, or maybe they're just sort of listening in and doing other things. So who knows? I'm wondering, what do you have planned for later this year? Do you have any special plans of filming that you have planned? Do you have any new equipment that you're looking to get your hands on?
Well, equipment unfortunately takes funding. Everything that I'm getting right now, my attorney is expensive. I've got some part-time work, and that's been carrying me over, along with donations from subscribers. But I need to get a better dash cam set up for sure. I need something like what Philip's got, because if you looked at that last video where that Precinct 8 deputy was chasing me, I'm having to hold the camera up and try to drive and focus his camera on the deputy all at the same time. And it was, if you had been outside the car looking in, you'd have been laughing at me. But, I need a second camera, because they are not releasing my other camera back to me. And it's just a matter of time before one of these deputies takes this camera from me. That's what they do when they want to shut you up. I actually had a deputy try to, one of the deputies that was harassing me. I was downtown for court, and as I was leaving court, I came upon a guy that was trying to drown himself. And I videotaped it, and the sheriff's department had no jurisdiction over it. They were there, but it was the Houston Police Department that had jurisdiction. And the PIO one of the PIOs from the sheriff's department named Gillian came and threatened to seize my camera, because I had video not only of the guy drowning, but of the deputies standing around and doing nothing about it. They just stood on the shoreline. Now, in deference to them, I'm going to say initially, I faulted them for that. But as I reviewed the video, it became obvious that they really couldn't see the guy from the shoreline. He was too low in the water. I'm standing over him on a bridge looking down, so I had a bird's eye view. And so I went back and I apologized to the deputy that I had vilified in my video. But the PIO that was there and a couple of other deputies that were up on the bridge were just making jokes about this guy that had drowned and died, and I videoed that. And they got pissed off about it. And so they threatened to take my camera and some other stuff. And then after the fact, that particular PIO posted on my video feed on the comment section, saying, "Hey, you're not a journalist. You're just, just an idiot that wants to be a journalist," and all this junk that had nothing to do with nothing.
Which is quite surprising, because the thing is, it doesn't matter if you're quote unquote a journalist, and a journalist definition is quite broad for the most part. It's literally anybody that's really putting out some sort of news or information. But
Sure.
The freedom of the press, it pretty much applies to anybody. Anybody that has a camera, has a method of putting information out there, whether it be a blog or printing out pamphlets or anything like that, that is press. That is reporting some sort of information for other people to consume. And I have yet to see something that says, "Oh, you can't be press," because even or you can't be a journalist, you can't be press or whatever, because in 2008, I think there was a huge argument when they were doing amendments to the Freedom of Information Act on the national level with Congress too.
It's about controlling the narrative. These people, they need to be able to discredit you some kind of way, okay? So I'm actually credentialed media for American News Information Services, okay? That's an outfit out of Connecticut. It's run by a guy named Ed Peruta, and I'm published. I mean, I've had my stuff broadcast locally here on Channel 26, Fox, and KHOU, Channel 11, and Channel 13. I provided stuff to them, videos and photographs and story backgrounds, as well as some places out on the East Coast and Sail Magazine as well. So, I mean, I am published and I am credentialed. So for him to say something like that, it's just them trying to control the narrative. Because as long as they can control the narrative and get a good portion of the population to listen to them, you're discredited. Nobody's going to believe you. They're not even going to bother to look at your video to see what the truth is because, hey, the sheriff says you're a liar. That's good enough for me. There are people that will accept that. And that has always been how they formed the public opinion in the past. Well, that's changed now. Now we have social media. So they can tell all those lies all day long, but in the end, my video is there, and my video doesn't lie. So call me a liar if you want, but there's the video. And when I went through this stuff with Deputy Ibarra, I actually challenged the sheriff, Ron Hickman. I told him, I said, I put a big video out, and I said, look, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to pick 2 deputies that work for you, and I picked 2 deputies that I know, or I don't know them personally, but I know that they're honest, and a reporter from the Houston Chronicle. I said, show them the video of my arrest. If they say I should have been arrested, I'll go to court the next time, plead guilty, and accept whatever the judge gives me. I said, now, if they come back after looking at that video and they say I should not have been arrested, then you announce and submit your resignation effective immediately. Well, of course, he's not going for that because he knows. He knows the truth.
Yeah, I had to say that's quite the risky bet right there. That is for sure.
It's not risky because I know what's in the video.
Well, not risky for you, obviously. You know what happened. You know what's in the video.
Yeah.
But I have to say that really puts them on the spot. That would have been awesome. You got that on recorded.
It's on my channel. It's on the last the court outcome video.
Okay, I'm gonna have to go back. I go through on average I think almost 50 videos a week, and it's hard. I easily forget. I mean, mini videos. There's some pretty good ones and stuff like that. Every now and then I'll have one that will literally stick to my mind and all that stuff for a while. But as is, it's going through a lot of material and all that stuff for Pinac and for Reddit and all that stuff. Is this good? Is this not? One of the other things you said you were. What was that? The news group? I can't remember the name. What was that again? Your credential?
Ed Peruta. It's American News and Information Services.
Okay, I have to ask you this because I know there's going to be other people that are going to go, why didn't you ask him this? Have you talked to or met J.C. Playford, who is with that same outfit?
I know who J.C. Playford is. I've talked to him on the phone. We text back and forth, but we've never been face-to-face.
Okay, yeah, because a lot of people love some of his work coming out of San Diego there, and he was over in Florida and all that stuff with Honor Your Oath, Jeff Gray.
Right.
People are fan of how he has a no-holds-bar when he's talking back to police saying, hey, you can't do this, I can do this, HIPAA doesn't apply. That's some really good stuff right there.
He is a very in-your-face kind of guy. I'm really more laid back than that, but when I first started looking at police accountability videos. JC was one of the people, Bunny Boots, JC, Honor Your Oath. These were probably 3 of my favorites.
Yeah, and how have you had a hard time getting yourself set up with your style yet, or anything like that? Or are you still in the learning process, do you think?
It's always a learning process because every situation is different. Every police officer that you deal with is different. So what you can't really have, I know you like that silent treatment, and I've looked at that, but around here they have what's called the Baker Act, and if they think that you're psychiatrically questionable, they'll arrest you and take you for a psych evaluation. So you have to be careful with the silent treatment around here, because I'm not giving them an excuse to arrest me. The whole purpose in what I do is to be lawful and operate within the law. So I'll usually give them a basic explanation of what I'm doing. What are you doing? I'm taking pictures. Are you taking pictures of our building? Yes, I took pictures of your building. And, I generally, the thing that I get the most from people are my subscribers. The one thing my subscribers bitch about the most is that I allow pat downs. I will actually volunteer for a pat down. And the reason I do that is, if you make some kind of funky move that they don't like, they just draw a gun and kill you and claim they thought that you were going for a gun. By allowing them to pat me down, I take that out of the equation. So, that's the number one thing that, like I said, my subscribers don't like. They don't like that I do that. But, my safety, screw officer safety. They got guns. I don't carry a gun, a pocket knife, nothing when I'm out doing an audit. And my safety comes first. And if I enhance my safety by allowing a pat down, I'm all for it. But that assumes they ask, or they tell me I'm detained, in which case, of course, you have to submit to the pat down. But, that constable the other day just grabbed me and started patting me down. And when I asked him if I was detained, he said no. So, of course, I objected to it.
Yeah, and that definitely got me really cringing. Some people were commenting about, yeah, it's like he just walks up to you and pats you down. And that sort of reminds me of that stop and frisk policy that's been going on in New York City, which has been declared unconstitutional because of the way they've been enforcing it, from what I understand. I'm not sure what's the still current status on that, because I still see quite a few videos coming out of New York City where people are getting stopped and frisked.
Yeah, and this is, it's always a big thing in Texas. When they poke fun about something, for instance, picante sauce. They'll, and I know this sounds stupid, but that's one of the things they poke fun about, is a lot of picante sauce is made in New York City. And then we have manufacturers that make it here. And so there's this one commercial where they bring out picante sauce and the guys at the campfire look at it and they say, "Where's this stuff made?" And they look at the label and they say, "New York City." And one of them says, "Oh, get a hanging rope." This isn't New York City. This is Texas. And one of the things we pride ourselves on down here is freedom. And I didn't post the video. I posted just a couple of quick points from it at the end of that Precinct 8 constable's video. But I went to the constable station to make a complaint. And one of the things that I said to the captain that came out was, "This is not New York City. This is not stop and frisk. And, this is unacceptable." And I actually need to do a follow-up with that captain because, just the little blips that I put of him in there, people are begging for more information about him. And so I need to post that, and I just haven't gotten to it yet. But, to just grab somebody on the side of the street, just grab them and start patting them down, it's unfathomable. If I did that to a police officer, he'd probably shoot me before he even asked a question. But worse, and had I resisted him, he'd have beat my ass and threw me in handcuffs and given me some kind of criminal charge. What he did was wrong on every level. And I'm not going to let that go. I'm making a complaint. I have called the Precinct 8 constable, Phil Sandlin, and been to his office when he wouldn't answer the phone or I couldn't get him on the phone. I was near his office, so I went by there. left him a business card and said, I want to talk to you. And the phone conversation that I had with him is posted on my YouTube channel. And again, he kind of went into politics, but I believe that, when I make the complaint, I've got to write it out this weekend and turn it in Monday. I believe that they will take some action.
Yeah. Also, you mentioned the Baker Act. So you suspect that if I were to show up in Texas and go and do a silent treatment video on some facility, do you suspect that there would be a pretty good chance I might be arrested underneath the Baker Act?
I would be willing to bet money that if you did that someplace where you encountered the Harris County Sheriff's Department, I would be willing to bet money that they pulled Baker Act on you.
Now you got my curiosity piqued. I might just have to do something about that. So,
all right, I'm unemployed,
to those
so bring
viewers
bond money
out there.
You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
I'm unemployed, so bring bond money. Come on, I'll back you up.
Yeah. So I have to say that's quite the interesting thing, because I heard the same thing with Florida. They have a Baker Act also, which that definitely plays an interesting thing, because I remember what was it, FTG there over by Jacksonville attempted to do a silent treatment, and it had some very interesting results with the officers there getting in his face about, do you need mental health, something like that.
Yeah.
So,
and I've seen you've got long hair and stuff, so they're going to say you're some homeless guy, and we're worried about you, so we're going to take you down here and have you looked at.
Well, I don't have the long hair anymore, but I still have quite this long beard that I'm growing out for something. So.
Okay. Well, see, like I said, I would be willing to bet money that they Baker Act you.
Yeah, but I have to say, I'm still curious. I'm still loving how the fact that some people have adopted or attempted to do silent treatment. Some successful, some not. I know Philip tried to do it once and ended up in handcuffs. I'm still not sure if there's a civil case that's ongoing with that or not for him, because I know he's got a couple now going, since he's got a decent lawyer now lined up.
Yeah, I think he's got like 6, if you count Galveston. I believe he's got about 6 going right now.
Wow, that didn't take long. I know he is. I have to say that his channel, he started after me and has surpassed me in content, really, and decent content for dealing with law enforcement and also subscribers and all that stuff and views. Yours is, I'm suspecting you'll probably be able to surpass me by the end of the year with how fast you're growing. I'm just amazed that, especially since you're saying you got a lot of local people that are subscribing. That's kudos to you that you got people that are supporting what you're doing and they're realizing what's going on in their area.
And that is, my subscribers have been what has saved me, honestly. And Philip and his subscribers have been a great help as well. But, when, I got arrested the middle of December, had to post bond, had to pay bills, basically it got fired within just a couple of days. So by the first of the year, I was dead broke and had to have a lawyer. The judge told me if I represented myself, I would have to come to court every day. So I had to get a lawyer, just everything that cost money. And, there was no money. So, my subscribers stepped up and helped me get new equipment. And they far surpassed what I needed for equipment. And I even let them know, I say, hey guys, I got a new camera, blah, blah, blah. And still they donated money. They really carried me through. They helped me with getting an attorney. I owe those people an eternal thank you. And basically my deal with my subscribers is this. the first lawsuit that I get money from, whatever has been donated to me, I'm going to pick 3 charities and let my subscribers vote, and I'm going to donate from whatever money I get in settlement an equal amount to what was given to me to whatever charity they select. It's just my way of showing that my appreciation. My other way for showing appreciation is that, in my subscribers, if you look at my comment sections and stuff, I'm very interactive with my subscribers. When they comment, a lot of times I'll answer them back or I'll say something to them. And they really like that. They're very responsive to that. And I like it because, it keeps me in touch with them. And it's been a very good experience. Philip has actually picked up on something. I never wanted to be in front of the camera. I'm a cameraman. I want to be behind the camera. And this has forced me to get in front of the camera on a number of occasions. And I found that my subscribers actually liked that. They interacted with me through the comments section after I would post a video and talk about whatever. And so Philip is, we were talking, and I told him, I said, you need to get in front of the camera and talk to your subscribers. They want to hear what you got to say. And so he did it. He just posted a video yesterday of, just updating people while he was driving his car and stuff. So the subscribers, man, without them, you just can't do this. And, you've got to keep them happy and like I said, interact with them and work with them, and they'll give you good leads. I mean, this thing with the toll booth people, that was a lead from one of my subscribers.
Yeah, and I do agree. I have, what was it, the port facility that I filmed with the security guards threatening me and wanting me to delete footage, that actually came from a viewer to give me a tip about the port there. And I have to say, it's definitely quite the, the viewers sort of help give you power, but it's a trade-off. I see, because now you're going to have less personal space kind of thing. You're now putting your stuff, people are going to dig into you. You're going to be more out there in the public, so you sort of have less privacy, but the protection that it provides for doing this kind of activity really helps out, especially like with an arrest and stuff like that. I know with my arrest, I had other activists and all that stuff trying to call and figure out what was going on with me, and all that stuff. I know with you and Philip there, when the Galveston incident happened, people were calling in. I remember there was the team of activists that I do network with were trying to figure out what was going on, and we're calling all over the place trying to figure out where you were at. So,
well, they black bagged me when they first arrested me. They found my press credentials and my business cards, so they looked at my YouTube channel and realized that I was associated with, PNAC and the accountability movement. So when they first arrested me, they were holding me in cells that did not have working phones. And at one point, they messed up and put me in a cell that had a working phone, and I immediately got on the phone to Philip and alerted him to what was going on. And they come running in there, get off the phone, and once again moved me to a cell that wasn't working. After they arrested Philip, I knew something was going on. I was still in jail, and there was a couple of guards that came to the cell I was in, put their head in there, said, "Which one of you is David?" And I'm like, "Oh, man." And they're like, "That's the guy?" And they were pulling deputies off the streets to answer telephones because they were getting so many phone calls about Philip and I. And that, you guys don't know, or the subscribers just don't know, that means something when you're sitting in that cell and you know that these people, are catching hell and being held accountable, and somebody knows where you're at, and you don't know how much security and what a boost that gives you while you're sitting in there. Because the whole time when they black bag me and I'm sitting in there and nobody knows where I'm at, I mean, they could have hung me up in a cell and said I committed suicide. They could have done anything, and who'd ever know? So, those subscribers, are your safety net. They are absolutely your safety net. And man, I thank God for every one of them, every subscriber I've got, and Phillips too, because those guys, like I said, it's been a concerted effort when we were in trouble to get in there and help us. And I had a family member that posted my bond and got me out. And before I could even bond Philip out, you know, I had people contacting me here. I got the money for his bond. You know, what do we need to do? And, you know, and I bonded him out. So, yes, the subscribers, man, the subscribers are everything. They're our audience. They're our safety net. You know, whatever you need, you know, I've got a dash camera right now, for instance, you know, and that was donated by a subscriber. Said, you need a dash cam? You know, here you go. You know, if it wasn't for them, we couldn't do this.
And I wholeheartedly agree. What was it? November year before last. I remember after getting done with the court issue where I ended up raising money for my defense when I was filming inside the federal courthouse there, and that case was done. I still had like $200 left. I have to go back over and look at the video for that where I did the accountability on all that stuff. But pretty much when I heard Tom Zebra or Daniel Solomon over there in California, him getting he was in jail needing bond. I made sure I donated what was left of that so he could get out, get bonded out and all that stuff. And the camaraderie for that kind of thing within the community is pretty strong of, hey, so-and-so's in trouble, he's known for doing this filming, or you are actually a fan or pay attention to them kind of thing. People try to help out. I mean, the call floods, I know, definitely help in many situations. For the most part, people try to make sure to get the money raised and all that stuff on the Bell thing. And I've loved seeing have that network sort of increase, and more of the activists that are on the front lines networking, so this way we have more of each other's back. If we can't be there in person, at least being able to support. Subscribers calling in definitely, I mean, helps out. That's why I try to do the recording calls like with Jeff Gray the last year, where I record, it's like, hey, yeah, this is what they said, and all that stuff. I wasn't able to do the call thing for you because I was just busy at the time dealing with all kinds of stuff. But hopefully if there's if there's another case that happens in the future, I'll be able to back you up on that part if everything permits on that part. So.
Well, when Philip got arrested in Galveston, we shut that place down. Their phone system couldn't handle all the phone calls. They were so frustrated. If you said Philip, when they answered the phone, they just hung up.
Yeah,
I'm serious. They just did not know what to do. They had to take patrol officers off the street to answer the phone, and even the patrol officers were just so frustrated with the phone calls they were getting. They were just hanging up, beating the phones on the desk and then hanging up. You know, stuff like that. It was crazy. That I have never seen anything like that. And I mean, when I got arrested in LaPorte, there was a call flood, but nothing like that. It was, you know, it's one of those things you look at it and you're just like, wow. And it was really one of those moments. For an activist, it's one of those moments that you dream of.
Yeah, I can understand.
Philip didn't know. Philip didn't know when he got out, and I got him and got him back up here, and I started telling him, and he's like, no, you're exaggerating. And so we dialed the public information officer down there, and I said, I'd like some information on Philip Turner, and the guy beat the phone on his desk and then hung up on us, and Philip was just like, wow.
Oh man, did you? You probably didn't have that recorded, did you?
No, I wish I had. But ask Philip about it sometime. He will tell you it was a very humbling moment for Philip as well as I. And I don't know if you've ever talked to Philip or not. You know, he's a very laid back, quiet kind of guy. And you know what you see in his videos, that's really just how he is. he's not aggressive. He doesn't get angry and yell and, all that stuff, whereas I sometimes, if you throw my camera in the mud, you're going to get an ass chewing. I really strive to be more like Philip. I really wish I was more like Philip. He's a great guy, great young man, very intelligent. I can't say enough good stuff about him.
Well, he's actually, I'm trying to line up to see if I can get him to come on next week to stuff. Hopefully that works out. I sent him a few messages, so we'll see what that turns out. Maybe we'll be able to, have him on the phone or on Google Hangouts here, or do the live stream interview, and I'm sure a lot of people would love to tune in and ask him questions. We're pretty much done this for an hour, 15 minutes. We've done this for a while, so I might as well wrap it up. Do you have any final say? Do you want to shout out or anything like that?
No, I think we covered a lot. I appreciate you taking the time to do this, and I like things like this when any of the activists do this stuff. I always try to tune in because it's a learning curve. It's a learning moment. You never know what you're going to pick up on. I don't know if you've heard my line, where the police ask, will say, "Hey, you're a suspicious person," and my subscribers love this line when I use it. I say, "Well, is that a misdemeanor or a felony?" I actually picked that up on a live stream chat somewhere. Somebody was talking about that particular item, and they said something along those lines, and I thought, wow. I said, that's perfect for an audit. And it has been great. It's been great. So I encourage people to listen to stuff like this and learn. And everybody, get out there and film the police.
Yeah.
That's how you get change. That's how you make change. I encourage everybody to do that.
All right. Well, thanks for doing this interview with us. I'll try. Well, we'll probably have you back on sometime in the future. That's for sure, to get an update on what's going on. And I'm pretty sure other people will be enthusiastic to hear what's going on, all that stuff. I want to do a quick shout out to another channel that has been pretty much just started. Jason Scott, I'm hoping you're doing good or getting better, because he had a heart attack just recently. He's also been arrested too for trying to do a First Amendment audit. But what I'm really curious to see is him investigating more in the roadside smog checkpoints that are done on the side of the road. I would love to see some more work on that part. Get some more information. He said last time I talked with him, he's looking to possibly do that stuff. Well, get more on that. So hopefully your health improves and all that stuff. I would love to see you get back out there, but it's hard to say with what's going on for you. Also, check out News Now Houston. He's got quite a few videos going on. Some of them are actually a little bit entertaining, especially with the recent one where it had Itsy Bitsy Spider. So I sort of just chuckled at that. So it's kind of funny. That was Sheriff Hickman came to a crime scene that I was at, and the PIO ran over there and told him I was there, and he was scared to death. He would not get out of the car and turned around and left because I was there. Yeah. Well, and then as I'm going to leave off, I'm going to end this with a hint for my followers. There was already a few hints dropped, but there's going to be an upcoming major announcement for a huge, interesting a couple changes that I will be doing with the channel besides just doing these live interviews with various other activists, which I'm hoping to have happen. So stay tuned and all that stuff. If you have a cop blocker, a First Amendment auditor, or someone that does a government accountability that you want me to interview, leave something in the comments to the video of this after the live stream is done. I'll see about trying to get a hold of them and try to do an interview. This way you can ask them questions, I'll ask them questions, and we'll see how that all goes. So nice having you here, David, and we're going to leave it off with this. And have a nice day or evening for wherever you are at.
All righty, brother. Take it easy.
speed of my